Hello world and welcome to a new video in the Java Basics course on the Future Programmer YouTube channel. Today marks the start of chapter 2 in this course, which is all about control flow in Java programming. Today's video specifically is on conditional statements in Java. So without further ado, let's get started. To start off, what are conditionals? Well, let's think about ourselves. As humans, we make decisions every single day. And in programming, we can program computers to do the same thing. Usually, we make decisions, we choose to do things because of conditions. And in programming, this is done with something called conditional statements. Our choices are often made based on conditions, so we can make a decision based on if I am free on Saturday, I'll hang out with my friends. The condition here is I am free on Saturday. If this condition evaluates to true, so if I am free on Saturday, then I'll perform a certain action, such as hanging out with my friends. In programming, conditionals behave the same way. We test a condition, and if that condition is true, then we'll run some code. If it's false, so if this condition is false, then that code is skipped, so I won't be hanging out with my friends if I am not free on Saturday. Below is the structure of an if statement in Java. So we write if, and then a pair of parentheses inside of which we put a condition. The condition is going to be such as I am free on Saturday, so we will put that as the condition inside of this parentheses. And then after that, in a pair of curly brackets, we'll put some code. The indentation here is for readability. It's not mandatory, but it does make our code look cleaner. So we write some code in here, which will be run if the condition is true. Just to review, booleans are either true or false. If condition evaluates to the boolean value of true, some code is run. Otherwise, it won't be run. So here's an example of using if statements in Java. So we write if, and then parentheses, 5 is greater than 2, curly brackets, and then we write system.out.println, 5 is greater than 2. In this example, the same thing. If 2 is greater than 5, we'll print out 2 is greater than 5. Let's copy this code into our online Java editor and take a look at the output. So if I run this code, we should see 5 is greater than 2, as we can see out here. So the computer is going to take a look. Is 5 greater than 2? That's going to be a question. Is 5 greater than 2? If that is true, then the computer will print out 5 is greater than 2. And then it's going to ask itself, is 2 greater than 5? Is that true? Well, it's not true, so this code will not be run. Line 7 will not be run. Oftentimes, we want to perform an alternative action when a condition is not true. So if I'm free on Saturday, I'll hang out with my friends. Otherwise, I will simply do homework. This can be modeled by an if-else structure in Java. So we can write if, condition, some code. This is the same thing as above. So if condition is true, we will run some code. Otherwise, so else, we'll run some other code. So some other code will be inside of another pair of curly brackets, like this. This time, if condition is true, some code will be run, and some other code will not be run. On the other hand, if condition is false, then some code will not be run, that will be skipped, and some other code will be run. If-else can perform the necessary logical testing behind many programs, but there are also cases where additional else-ifs are needed. So in this case, in our program, we can see we have an int variable called num with the value of 0. And then we have this whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line program here. Firstly, we have an if statement. If num is greater or less than 0, we will do this thing. And then we have something else if. What's that? Well, we have if and we also have else if. So else if num is equal to 0, we do this thing. Lastly, if this is not true and this is also not true, else we will do this thing instead. The difference between using if and else if is that ifs are always evaluated. So in this example above, this if will be tested and this if will also be tested. They're independent of each other. On the other hand, else ifs are only tested if the ifs and else ifs above it were all false. So in this whole tree kind of structure, this will be tested if this is false. This will be run if neither of these were true. So let's take a look at the output of this program. I'm going to copy this code into our editor once again and run it. We should see num is 0 because num is, well, num is 0. So let's try to put, let's say, -9. Like this. And we should see num is negative because -9 is less than 0. If I put +9, we should see num is positive because this is not true and this is also not true. So the else will be what's run. So num is positive, as we can see here. So let's take a look at this program to emphasize the difference between using if and else if. Looking at this program, those are pretty much the same thing besides the number here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The only main difference is that this is if and this is else if. What's the difference? Well, ifs are evaluated independent of each other. So this will be tested and this will also be tested. On the other hand, this will be tested, but this will not be evaluated because this is true. So it's assumed that everything under it are just going to be ignored. Let's take a look at whether the output verifies this in our editor. Running this program, we should get 1, 2, and 3, which we can see is indeed the output on our right. So here's a summary of the if, else structure in Java. If A, we will do something as long as A is true. In the else if B part, this code inside will only run if A, first of all, is false, and B is also true. So if A is true, then nothing matters under here. It's just going to run this code, and it will go to the end after this. Else if B will only run if A is false and B is true. Lastly, if neither A nor B are true, so they're both false, then this code will run inside of this else. To practice using conditionals, let's write a short program that prints out whether a number is even or odd. A hint, you can use the modulus operator to get the remainder of a division operation. So try this program out on your own and then come on back to this video when you're done. Alright, so here is an example solution to this practice problem. Firstly, we declare a variable int num with initial value of 0. And then we write an if-else statement. If num is, or num modulus 2 is equal to 0, we print out num is even. Remember, modulus is going to give us the remainder of the division operation. So if the number divided by 2 has a remainder of 0, that number will be even. Otherwise, we'll print out num is odd. Let's take a look at the output of our program if I put this inside of our editor. So running this program, we should see 0 is even. And that's because num modulus 2 will indeed be equal to 0. This is true. So line 5 will be run. So 0 is even. On the other hand, if I try 9, we should see 9 is odd because this is false, so we run the else block. So 9 is odd. Conditionals are used everywhere in programming, wherever we want a program to make a decision. And now with this tool in hand, you can make some pretty awesome projects. And that's it for this video about conditional statements in Java. If you learned something today, please consider subscribing to this channel down below so you won't miss any future tutorials just like this one. Feel free to leave questions down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. With that said, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in another video.